We'll give it 2 more minutes just to keep it at the nice even 7:05 for anyone that's having trouble finding their Quigo chat invitation, their personalized link, and getting into the conference. It's great to see the turnout. When we started doing the planning and considering this summit, we were curious as to how many attendees or registrants that we would have. And of course, you'll see the maintainers list shortly. Group of very dedicated, hardworking baseline protocol engineers. We thought we'd get maybe 50, maybe 75 registrations. And now we're pushing 400. So the turnout is great. We're very appreciative of the support. And we're very focused on making sure that the baseline protocol can add value to your business and ultimately to the computing landscape at large. All right, it's 7:04. The live stream is rolling. That must be my cue to get the party started, so to speak. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us here at the Baseline Protocol Summit 2020. I'm your host, Nick Kritikos. The hashtag for the summit is hashtag 2020 Baseline Summit. So please, if you're going to communicate on social media, please leverage that hashtag. It just really makes it a lot easier for us to kind of track overall reach and engagement. And it's fun to see if we can get some of these things trending on some of these platforms. So as I mentioned, I am Nick Kritikos. I'm your host, certainly for this session. There are many hosts that are part of this summit. You'll meet some of them later. Of course, we'll be joined by our chairman, John Wolpert, here shortly with a few words of encouragement and guidance for the summit. But before we do that, let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I got here. I have been part of the computer industry, either directly or indirectly, since the early 80s. When I was a young child going to high school in Athens, Greece, my father, who was an American diplomat at the time, technically smuggled in a TRS-80 color computer to Greece in a diplomatic pouch so that I could begin my computer journey. Taught myself BASIC from the early days, back in the old MS BASIC days. Expanded that to include assembly and Pascal and Logo and other languages. Actually taught a Pascal class or supported the teaching of a Pascal class in my high school. Moved on, of course, as I grew up and I went to college. I started out as a systems student, really, kind of focused on computer information systems. At the time, this is back in the early 90s, late 80s. The curriculum in most colleges was somewhat remedial, right? They had to go off the assumption that you didn't have any foundation. So they started with, basic algorithms and that sort of thing. And it was somewhat remedial. So I realized that, there was more action in the business realm at the time. Certainly it was a little bit more lively at my college than the computer lab. So I switched my major to economics, where now I technically have a couple economics degrees. But it's interesting that when I discovered blockchain about 5.5, almost 6 years ago, it brought these two things together in a way that I think we're just now as a culture starting to appreciate. I started my career after college at a company called Borland. Many of you, depending on how old you are perhaps, may not remember Borland. At the time, it was the other Microsoft. They had a similar suite of products, Paradox, Quattro Pro, et cetera, as well as development tools. And that was kind of their claim to fame. So Delphi, C++ Builder, and things like that. Well, Borland, competition is tough, and Borland didn't really survive. And as it was revenues were shrinking and the customer base was shrinking, I switched and was very fortunate to be hired by Oracle, where I spent the next 18 years of my life. And during my time at Oracle, we did a number of projects helping customers first kind of get a handle on the data in their enterprise, and then ultimately begin to use that data in more effective ways. First, within an enterprise, my slides move very quickly. And then more and more increasingly across enterprises. So, at the late 90s, early 2000, big movement toward outsourcing, right? If a business process wasn't part of your core value chain, then a company should really consider whether they should do it themselves or whether they should use a trusted third party in order to enable those systems. And ultimately, the idea was to shrink costs and get better quality of service, and be able to focus the company's efforts and resources on their core value proposition, right? Whether it was building a widget, a computer chip, a phone, a device, software, whatever it might be, or providing a service. The idea at the time was that you shouldn't spend the money and the resources on these common processes, things like HR, customer support, things that could be outsourced and done in a much more economically efficient fashion through a third party. And this led to a big effort to integrate business processes across companies, right? First, with the partners that were providing your outsourcing capability, but more and more with your trading partners, whether they were in the supply chain or even downstream with your distributors, contractors, and others. Today, according to IDC, 75% of companies have 2 or more business processes that are external to their organization. However, many of them are still using manual processes in order to execute those transactions, in order to conduct that business. Sending emails with PDFs or spreadsheets, faxing. Believe it or not, faxing is still a thing. And in many times, that is the mechanism by which this information is flowing. And it's imperfect. It's slow. It's fraught with errors. Again, the same IDC report found that as many as 35% of those transactions had errors that required additional work after the fact, oftentimes costing almost tens of dollars, $50 to $60, I believe, is what they actually estimated the average transaction it took to reconcile, which is fine, if you're a big company and you're doing huge volumes. But oftentimes these business processes also engage smaller companies that don't have the resources or the robust IT staff in order to have their own ERP system, or the ERP system that they're using because their budget is smaller is not compatible with the ERP system of their large trading partner. So companies started to build these really fantastic enterprise application integration systems, spending hundreds and millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars on computer hardware and software and professional services in order to stand up these systems before they ever got to their very, very first transaction. They would spend millions of dollars. And then the hope, of course, is that over time, by doing thousands or millions of transactions, you'd amortize that cost over time. But the reality is the operational costs of these systems are often so high that the return on that investment is pushed out by an order of magnitude. So it's very difficult for smaller companies to ultimately justify that investment, which is why a lot of these things are still happening in a very manual fashion. So with the advent of blockchain, more of these things are becoming easier, right? Blockchain is good at many things. It's bad at many things as well. I like to say it's not bacon, right? I love bacon. Bacon's great with everything. It's great on shrimp. It's great on, on a burger. It's great by itself. It's great with breakfast. It's great with lunch. You can have bacon at any time. There's even bacon flavored vodka, which arguably shouldn't exist. However, blockchain is not bacon. It's not good for everything. There are certain applications like cryptocurrency or settlement, provenance, identity that blockchain really excels at, but it's not good for everything. And so companies early on in the blockchain revolution were starting to experiment with blockchains and seeking to understand how they can apply this really wonderful technology in this tool. And they did a lot of work with private, got to make sure my slides work. There we go. With private blockchain implementations. However, those private networks would run into challenges. They weren't perfect. you still had a transparency issue, where on the public blockchain, on a mainnet, everybody can see your business, if you will. On a private network, only your invited network participants can see the data. However, they can still see the information. They can still understand what's going on through reading the tea leaves, if you will, about your business processes or your logic. And that becomes problematic, especially as you look to open these networks up and gain the network effects that the promise of this technology really delivers on. So Forrester did a study, again, about a year ago, and they found that many companies that are investigating blockchain are realizing that private networks are a bit of a dead end. They're great and they can be valuable, but they ultimately create another silo of information that then needs to be integrated. In order to get the best network effects out of a blockchain system, they're recognizing that a public blockchain is the way to go. So more and more companies, as you can see here, 75% of those surveyed recognize the benefits of a public blockchain and are moving in that direction. However, and this is a big gotcha, 80% of that data is still confidential or considered too sensitive to expose on a public or even a private blockchain. Again, the idea that anybody can see your business, anybody can understand what's going on in a purchase order or how that purchase order flows through your supply chain. That kind of data is invaluable to companies that are looking to enter a market or to ultimately compete and compete in a way that might not be the most fair. However, blockchains just don't have a privacy or a transparency challenge for enterprises that are looking to integrate these systems. They have a number of other challenges that ultimately keep them held at arm's length by CISOs and CEOs and IT professionals. Not only is the data public, as I mentioned, your business logic is also exposed to your trading partners. How do you find the trading partners and do it in a way that is reliable and safe and mitigates risk as opposed to adding additional risk factors? All of these things are ultimately blockers for why enterprises would engage or adopt blockchain technology. And that was one of the driving factors behind the creation of the Baseline Protocol. The Baseline Protocol, as we'll talk about, is an open standard public domain initiative to help companies work better together and do it in a fashion that is private and doesn't expose sensitive information to other trading partners or trading partners that shouldn't have access to it, and do it in a fashion that breaks down those silos, that ultimately creates the last silo, if you will, whereby just plugging into this infrastructure, you get access to a wealth of capability that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Almost like electricity or the telephone network, right? If you just plug into this business network and begin to integrate your systems in a way without all this additional overhead, without all this additional expense of these EAI systems, wouldn't that be a great thing, right? You think about these distributed applications where each application independent of function is contributing a node to the network and is opening up new doors and breaking down barriers to doing business much more efficiently. That ultimately is the goal of the Baseline Protocol. Now, the Baseline Protocol came about, I remember it very well. Myself, Paul Brody, John Wolpert, York Rhodes, were sitting at a table having lunch at the Ethereal conference in May of 2019. We were sitting in a little diner in Red Hook. Ultimately, we were there to prepare for a session that Paul and John were doing about public networks and the adoption of public networks. And I believe it was Paul that looked at us and said, you know what I would like? It would be great if we could do a project that really addressed the core blockers for enterprise adoption of blockchain. And we agreed to get together after the fact, after the summit, when we had a little bit more time, and begin to consider this. So, a few weeks later, Paul, John, York, and a few key others, Karthik, you'll meet many of these people through the course of the summit, started to put down in a list, and it's now published. John has published this on Medium, why the CISOs will not choose public blockchain. and came up with about 10 to 12 different things, right? We talked about these, the transparency, the business logic, scalability, et cetera. And they said, what if we used our engineering talent and our understanding and our experience, and we developed a way to use blockchain that addressed these concerns. And out of that, the baseline protocol was born. A lot of work went in to the initial POC, the initial implementation. Radish 34 is the code name, and the code still lives on in the repository. And ultimately built that out as a proof of concept, and then launched it to the world on March 4th, 2020. We were very, very fortunate that we had 14 companies involved in that initial launch, and really kind of at that point opened the project up through Oasis and the Ethereum Foundation and EEA, and opened that up because we recognized that in order for this to be successful, we couldn't go it alone. It's not about being the one blockchain. It's about developing blockchain capabilities and techniques that companies can use independent of their blockchain of choice to ultimately build better systems and get better information and automate so much more of these transactions that could be done at a much lower cost and a much higher level of security and efficiency, quite frankly. So coming back to the timeline, we did the launch on March 4th. Back in June, many of our members, Envision, Unibright, Provide, LimeChain, published a couple of additional demos. Microsoft Dynamics accessing SAP using public blockchain infrastructure to integrate those systems for a purchase order, or using Dynamics with a Google Sheets in a similar fashion. The idea being that if you have a small enterprise or a small participant in your business process, one that doesn't have the IT infrastructure or the budget to afford a Dynamics, which is still very cost affordable, or an SAP or an Oracle or what have you, that they can still participate in these business processes by simply leveraging Google Sheets or a mobile phone or Excel or whatever their tool of choice is. Again, the business process doesn't dictate the tools, the endpoints, but allows companies to work together. We achieved a pretty big milestone in August, toward the end of August, when we released the 0.1 implementation of the specification. Along with that came the first baseline reference implementation from Provide and Unibright and Nethermind. Great work. September, at the end of September, we hosted our second election for technical steering committee members, and there are 11 of them. These are folks that actually contribute to the code that are eligible, and only maintainers get to vote. So we have sponsors, and we're very gracious and grateful for our sponsors. We're up to 11. Welcome Splunk and Accenture to the latest rapidly growing list. The money that they provide goes into paying for infrastructure for conferences like this, for Zoom, for Oasis, and things like that. But it doesn't buy them a vote. In order for them to vote, to help sway the direction, there's really only one way to do that: by getting involved, rolling up their sleeves, contributing code directly to the repository. It's through this code contribution that you earn your right to vote, and to help select the next possible slate of technical steering committee members. So think about that. Today, here we are, November 12th, kicking off our first Baseline Summit. This is a working summit. This is not a webinar. Outside of my few comments here, where I'm sharing slides and somewhat lecturing to you, and I apologize for that. This is a working conference. We're intended to roll up our sleeves, keep our coffee fresh, and dig into the technical details. When we hit an obstacle, let's bring our best minds together to seek to understand why that obstacle exists and what it means and how we overcome it or work around it or simply break through, depending on what it is. So this is really meant to be a engineering working session. So we'll talk more about that, but this is our first one. Again, I mentioned that we originally thought we'd have 50 to 75 registrants, and we're now pushing 400. So that's great. We've got really many of the best minds in the blockchain ecosystem here today, across chains, right? Whether it's Ethereum or Definity or Fabric, we're less concerned about that. And we're really more concerned with making sure that we build the best standard and the best protocol to allow enterprises to use this infrastructure in highly valuable ways. Another thing that's coming up, and we'll talk more about this because that's one of the reasons, another one of the reasons why we're here, is that in December, we're going to have our first global baseline Gitcoin hackathon. So part of our hope through this conference is that we will be able to identify targets and projects relevant to furthering the baseline protocol and specification that we can conduct in that December hackathon. So not only are you here to roll up your sleeves and help further the technical work, but you're also here to identify targets and projects that you may be able to work on to help earn a little bit of coin, if you will, to help pay for Christmas, to help buy that new Xbox Series X or whatever the system of choice it is. Maybe buy some Ethereum for staking or what have you. But again, we're here for two main reasons. First and foremost, all jokes and all lightheartedness aside, we're here to further the baseline protocol. The specification and standards work, which we'll hear about in a minute, the technical work around the core APIs, how we approach tokenizations, oracles, and external data, ZK snarks or zeros knowledge circuits. It's all here. And it's a very full and packed agenda. We'll go through it in just a few minutes. But again, we're also seeking to identify hackathon targets and projects relevant to number one so that we can continue to further this work. John Wolpert likens the work that we're doing to launching a rocket into space or to the moon if you're a blockchain meme person. The idea with the March launch and this initial work was kind of our initial stage. It's heavy lifting, took a lot of effort just to build the initial momentum and get the rocket off the ground. And we're doing well, right? We're tracking toward orbit, but it's really time to kind of, disengage from stage one and fire up stage two and send the rocket into its next level of orbit. And that's our hope. Through this summit, through the efforts of the community, we'll be able to bring more people together, more of the greatest engineering minds on earth to really, further the protocol and make it more valuable for enterprises. A big piece of that, of course, are the standards. And we're very fortunate to have Aniso Frank joining us to talk about standards and our work there and kind of what you can expect over the next few weeks and months. Hi, Anis, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me well?
I hear you perfectly.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So I am Aniso Frank. I am a member of the Baseline Protocol Technical Steering Committee, and I lead the Standard and Specification Working Group. So we thought it will be useful and valuable to provide an overview and an update on where we are on the standard and specification. Nick, if you could go to the next slide, please. Oh, I cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the next slide is just my deck. Do you have slides to share?
Okay, so do I have sharing? Sure. I will
think so. If not, I can give you sharing.
Okay, give me 2 seconds. Yeah, if you could give me sharing, that would be great.
One of the benefits of using this great Quigo chat platform is it uses Zoom under the covers.
And Nick, I gave you.
I think I can share screen.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
That's great.
You got it?
Yeah, bingo. I've got it. Are you able to see
Thanks,
my screen?
John. Yes, we see your screen, Anis.
Okay, just give me 2 seconds then. Up. Okay, for some reason.
And we see it.
Okay, great. Yep, sure. So as Nick mentioned, so the Baseline Protocol is an OASIS open source initiative. And what really triggered the beginning of the OASIS standard development was the release of the V01 implementation at the end of August. So the team has been working over the last 2 months on 2 standards. So on one side, the baseline core specification, and on the other side, the baseline API and data model specification. So at high level, the core document will provide the set of functional and non-functional requirements so that 2 or more systems of record can maintain data consistency and workflow continuity by using the mainnet as a common frame of reference. And the API and data model document will really focus on the description of the baseline programming interfaces, their expected behaviors for all of the instances of those interfaces, as well as the data model. So one of our key focus, are you able to see my screen?
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, still, yeah. So one of our key priorities over the last couple of weeks has been to abstract and define the key components and the high-level requirements for both standards. And I'm very happy to say today that we have achieved that milestone last week. So we are now in a good position to start tackling the more detailed requirement. So I will take some time to really provide a brief overview of the 7 building blocks of the first standard. So as you can see here, of course, we have the API itself, and then we have our communication component. And this component really captures the requirement on how parties that engage in baselining send and receive message securely. So we are talking about authentication requirements, authorization, message delivery requirements, etc. Then we have our privacy and confidentiality component that focuses on requirements to deliver on commercial confidentiality and transaction privacy when being involved in baselining. So we also have the agreement execution component that covers the functionalities provided by smart contract. So what we are really talking about here are business logic execution, workflow verification requirements, for example. On the governance side, so this item, the fifth item, we really define what should be or what are the governance rules and processes for each component and layer of the protocol. So on the security consideration side, it's a bit of an interesting one. So actually, we won't be provided requirements, but we will present and discuss the key security items that we have identified as important when deploying a baseline implementation. And last, but definitely not least, the conformance component. So that will include conformance clauses, tests required for an implementation to achieve baseline compliance. We also have done exactly the same on the API side, but I won't go into the details so for time to be considerate of your time. So I will hand over back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Anise. That was great. And again, more and more work on the specification is happening every week. So if you want to get involved, please do so. Jump into Slack, and we'll talk about how to do that in a moment. Make sure you share your GitHub ID, and let's get to work. All right, next we're very fortunate to be joined by our chairperson. John Wolpert probably needs no introduction to this audience. Former IBM employee, grandfather. Oh, sorry, John, didn't mean to age you. Co-father, co-parent, started Fabric.
Helped out, yeah.
Yep. Realized after a brief period of time, like many companies do that start with private networks, realized that the real future and the real value is in public networks, and then got with the A-team, dropped that zero and got with the hero, so to speak. Welcome, John Wolpert.
Well, hi, everybody. It's good to be here. It's good to see so many people. Look, if you're here, it's because you're here for the work, for the teamwork. I've spent most of my career thinking about how to get things done across different companies, wrote a few things about it over the years, even started an NGO once trying to bridge research projects across companies. And now here we are, not only building something substantial with people from all over the world, but we're working in more companies than I can keep track of. But perhaps appropriately, the very subject of our work is indeed about helping many entities bridge the gap between them and achieve a more regular and reliable shared sense of truth. That's what baselining is all about. We've come a long way since 2015 when Ethereum gave us, more than a few of us, the idea that blockchain technology was about more than just coins. And we had a few years of thinking that blockchains were fancy databases. And then, as Nick said, chance encounter in 2019 at Ethereum led to a summer and winter of hard work, EY, Consensus, and Microsoft. And then we joined with an announcement from the baseline protocol itself by Oasis, Ethereum Foundation, the EEA, all working together, along with companies like AMD, Chainlink, Core Convergence, Duke University, Envision Blockchain, MakerDAO, Neocova, Unibright, Provide, Web3 Cloud, and then more followed. And now we have more sponsors, big companies like Accenture, Silicon Valley leaders like Splunk, and upstarts like Nethermind and Morpheus, and more are coming. What's more notable is that all the folks that are directly involved, from high-ranking executives to bench developers and companies that make up the best of the enterprise, mid-sized businesses, startups, and universities, and independent individuals volunteering their time. That's what the backbone is. And here's what we've achieved so far. We went from a demo to a dot release in just a few months, and a month faster than we predicted when we launched. There are notable clients working to baseline their operations, and companies in our community are getting work, helping them, while others are baselining their own products. And together we've moved the needle on getting IT execs to understand that using the public blockchain the right way, not as a back-end database, but as an always-on tamper-resistant integration layer, can be both safe and cost-effective. And now, today and tomorrow, we take the next step by identifying, exploring, specifying, and architecting the next features and capabilities of the baseline technique so that we can move confidently toward the next dot release of the protocol, robust tooling, reference implementations, and production deployments. We've identified a few things we know we need to get right so far, and this summit is about getting it right. That's what you're here for, to prioritize, to research approaches, do activities that will produce ideas, maybe even working code here and there that'll inspire not just the hackathon in December, which Nick talked about, but all the work in 2021. We made room, lots of room, many rooms right here, live on Zoom and on YouTube for 30 hours straight, so that you can dip in and out, get your hands dirty, have terrific discussions, work in small groups, and even break out into just a couple people so that you can go as deep as you like without someone saying, let's move on, or move on to the next subject. This is your time to hammer out the details for as long as you like. You'll notice that we didn't line up a bunch of speakers for the next 2 days. It's because this isn't a webinar. The summit rooms are here to collect your ideas and give you a jumping off point. That's it. And you'll notice that we have both asynchronous and synchronous sessions. So the summit can share docs and chat. You can break out into any kind of group you want. I hope that helps you a lot. Nick Kritikos has a whole screen full of people to thank for making this happen. I want to thank Nick himself, because I'm sure he'll forget his own name on that list. And of course, the folks who showed up to help every morning for weeks leading up to today. And to Jane Harnad of Oasis, who stepped up to figure out how to provision a platform that could basically approximate a virtual house where we could all camp out to build something together. This company is run by people who stand up and pick a lane to lead. It's for the organizations that devote time and focus on this work, and especially for the ones beginning to rely on that success, of the success of our collaborative work, for their own success. So, like an Amish barn raising, let's make the baseline protocol something built by all of us, for all of us. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate that. Your very kind words. Again, we'll talk about everyone that was involved, and just like anytime you start to list people, or you always run the risk of missing someone. So it is definitely a team effort. Okay, so back to work. If I haven't mentioned it, if you haven't read your welcome emails, there are two things that you should be doing immediately. One, if you're not already on the baseline Slack instance, get on the baseline Slack instance. Super easy, doesn't cost you anything, and it's a great way to engage on an ongoing basis with all of the engineering and development leaders and thought leaders that you're going to meet this week if you haven't met them already. It's very easy to do. There's an invitation link or an inviter link on the Baseline Protocol site. And there's actually, I put that link also in the conference schedule tab, which I'll show you in just a minute. And then, of course, once you're on Slack and you're able to communicate with the community at large, make sure you send your GitHub ID to Mr. Wolpert, to Jay Wolpert there, as you can see, so that we can get you added to the repository, so that you can take a look at those things, look at the epics, look at the code, depending on what your expertise is. Again, really roll up your sleeves, dive in, and contribute ultimately to the cause. We're going to take a little tour of the conference now. Want to make sure everyone understands kind of the conference hall, if you will, how to update your profile. Let me find my screen here. How to update your profile. There we go. Is my screen still shared? No, it's not. That helps. All right, in case you didn't see it because my screen wasn't shared, join Slack and send John your GitHub IDs. I'll show you where the invitation link is in a minute. All right, this is the Quigo chat interface. You're in the plenary, so you made it this far. Congratulations. In the interface, what you'll see is the breakout rooms over here on the left. And you can see, and this is again why I encourage people to add their profile pic, you can see where people are actively working in breakouts. This is a really beautiful interface. You can be in a session like we are now and click on another session without leaving where you are, and still refer to the notes and diagrams and kind of what's going on. So it can help you decide kind of when to move from one session to the next. Notice as I come back to the plenary, you will see that there are tabs at the top here. The first tab in every room are instructions that give you the basics, of course, as to when the sessions are starting or who your leads are and how to use Quigo chat and things like that. But they have other tabs as well, whether it's for slides or spreadsheets or notes or diagrams or what have you. In the plenary tab, we have the conference schedule. And I just want to highlight this for everybody. You can go in and take a look on your own time, of course. But these are effectively the sessions. These are the session leaders over here on the left. The audience limit per room and the core interface sessions all kind of are intended to line up so that they can happen in a single place. So if you're a core dev, if you're part of the maintainers, and you're really working on message formats, persistence, ZK circuits, and all of that, you can stay in one place. You don't have to do as much jumping around. But the topics are broad. We're very fortunate to have Dan Norkin and Avia and Stefan talking about the baseline protocol, how to experience it. You'll see the demos there. You'll experience how to work with SAP, how to work with Dynamics, et cetera, and how to go about approaching adding baseline capabilities to existing products. They've done a lot of work in this area, and their guidance is going to be invaluable to ultimately documenting a recipe, if you will, for others to follow. One of the great things about forging a new path is it's exciting, it's adventurous, but it's also risky. So don't forge your own path. Follow the paths that these trailblazers have already cut and really mitigate that risk. We're also very fortunate to be joined by Patrick Collins, Johan Eid, and Devin Mitchum to talk about oracles and external data, the group collaborating from Google and Chainlink to talk about how you can leverage external data in your baseline circuits or your baseline processes. The Global Phone Book Project is something near and dear to my heart. I've done a lot of work. I've sold a lot of identity software when I was at Oracle. And it's really one of the foundational pieces for a lot of these business processes. How do you find trading partners? How do you know that they are who they say they are? How do you know that they're reliable and all of that kind of thing, right? The phone book starts us down that path. You don't need the phone book, though, to get started today, right? If you know who your trading partners are, you can shake hands directly and manually connect stuff. But in a future world of network business processes, wouldn't it be great if you just find Microsoft or Google or Chainlink or whoever your trading partners are, Dell, Coke, et cetera, and just use whatever system or tool you're using, whether it's SAP, Oracle, or a bespoke system, or even Google Sheets, and be able to interact with them at a much more robust and meaningful way, where the data is shared and verified and consistent, and you reduce errors and it cuts down the cost. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. The core interface track, again, as you can see here, message formats. Do we need common standards around message formatting? If so, what should they look like? Things like that. Persistence. How do you save this information into your systems of record or into a database or what have you? A big component of the baseline protocol is privacy. A lot of that privacy comes through the use of zero knowledge circuits and other privacy enhancing tools. So come into that session, learn where we are with respect to the ZK circuits, the improvements we need to make, and again, roll up your sleeves and get into this. Don't sit on the sidelines, especially if you're an engineer. Bring your slide rule, but that would even date myself even further. One thing that I want to call out is we are running new feature sessions as part of the core interfaces track. These are just a couple check-in points just to see kind of if there are feature enhancements or new products, new things we need, new tools, whatever it is. We're going to collect that as a list and take that back to the technical steering committee after the conference so they'd be appropriately reviewed and prioritized. And Connor Svensson and Kyle are going to talk about blockchain client improvements. Nethermind was, again, a trailblazer in adding RPC capabilities to their blockchain client to really enable baselining. There's more work coming in that area, and you can join that session to learn more. Of course, as you start talking about network business processes and growing these beautiful ecosystems, scale becomes an issue, right? It's one thing if you're doing, a 30-day net 30 procurement process where you can wait a week and you're happy when it shows up in a day. However, as we integrate more and more of these systems and the volumes increase, scalability is going to become much more of kind of front and center. So join Andreas, Freund, Kyle, and others as they talk about scaling and how to approach scaling with respect to baseline. And of course, no session on blockchain would be complete without tokenization and digital assets. It's one of the core use cases for blockchain, being able to digitally represent something of value and transfer that in a non-repudiated way, avoiding double spend and all of that. Baseline promises to enable a whole new world of tokenization. Imagine, right, where you've got an invoice from a reputable buyer, AAA rated buyer, you're AA rated or AAA rated yourself, but you need to unlock the cash flow of that, being able to tokenize that and use some of the DeFi capabilities that are available to unlock that cash flow earlier. Or as time expands, going even further, right? Purchase orders, being able to take a purchase order, again, from a AAA rated buyer, and being able to finance that purchase order to get you the funding you need to begin the manufacturing process, to begin the hiring you need in order to deliver the service, whatever it might be, right? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox there. Just a quick run through the agenda. As you look at the times, these times are when session leaders have indicated that they're going to be in the room and be available, but that doesn't mean that's the only time you need to be there. You can jump in at any time. If you have a group of people that are coalescing around a certain topic, feel free to use one of these open spaces, or we've even made available meeting rooms. If you look at the bottom of the breakout list, meeting room A through E, these are just open rooms that you could jump into. They are not live streamed in the meeting rooms. They are not recorded. So you can jump in there at your leisure and then come back at any time you like. All of these times are in Eastern time zone. I know I fortunately, being a West Coaster, I'm easy with, subtracting 3. If it's more complex for you based on, where you are in the world, I've added a link to a time zone converter to make it easy for you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that the Slack inviter is right here in the schedule and summit. Now, if I haven't mentioned it before, if you haven't been paying attention, you can update your profile by simply clicking the link in the upper right-hand corner and going to your edit profile. If you would take a moment to do that, add a picture, that ultimately will help make the conference floor feel more engaging. And, again, we can see all of our peers and our friends working together in this session. All right, I'm trying to think in my head if I've forgotten anything. Conference schedule, got it. Profile schedule, breakouts. Chat. Yes. There is chat within Zoom. Of course, right? The standard Zoom chat, like right here. Hello. That happens within a session. If you have a question about the conference, if you're running into issues or just want to reach out to conference organizers like myself or Jane, Dee, Jory, or John, any of the other kind of really team of folks that are helping support this, down here in the lower right, you'll see a contact host. This is chat. Please be advised that this chat goes to the whole conference. As I type in there.
Which is handy, by the way.
Which is handy, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you have some ideas that are going on in your session, you can broadcast those if they are relevant to everybody on that.
Absolutely. If you come across a topic, an insight or something like that, feel free to use that. You will also notice in virtually every breakout, and I'm just going to pick a random one here. All right. This one is loading up, that you have the tabs across the top. Each breakout has a notes tab so that as a participant, you can add your notes here, you can capture ideas, and these things will be saved and reviewed after the fact. There is a whole separate planning cycle for post-conference debriefs and digestion and all of that. So please make sure you use all of that. If you have any questions, you know where the chat is. Let's see, what else? Yes, we are recording, if that's not obvious, and we are live streaming. So keep that in mind as you attend sessions. The streams are going out on YouTube. The idea is that we want to be able to record these and allow people that can't attend live to come in and catch up, if you will. John, did you want to add a couple comments about that?
Yeah, I just want to be sure everybody remembers what they got in their invite email, that this is all public domain. Anything you say or write is, you don't put your trade secrets in there, and make sure that your etiquette is such that, decades from now, your grandchildren aren't embarrassed by what you say.
It lives on the internet forever. So let's do our best to put our best foot forward. Please observe proper Zoom etiquette. Everyone's been great on this, right? Mute yourself to mitigate background noise. If you're in a particularly big session with a lot of people, it would be helpful, and your session leaders will give you guidance on this as to how they want to run their sessions. You can use the raise hand feature. So you can raise your hand, unless you're the host, of course, and away we go. All right, so without further ado, let me take a moment to thank our maintainers. These are the GitHub IDs of the individuals that have actively submitted code. These are also the individuals, and these are individuals, these are not companies, that have voting rights with respect to selecting technical steering committee members, things like that. You can be one of these people. Super easy to do. If I haven't mentioned it yet, share your GitHub ID with John so we can get you in the repo.
I'm getting a bunch of them right now.
Awesome. Bring your engineering capabilities, bring your experience, bring your interests and your ambitions, and get involved. Again, couldn't thank these people enough. A great group of folks. It's really wonderful to work with them. Very kind of open-minded and inclusive, and it's not always, sunshine and rainbows, right? There are some good, tough, pointed discussions, but that's just natural, right? And it's healthy. So
that's why we made a lot of breakout rooms, and some of them are not being recorded, by the way, so you can go in there and duke it out if you'd like. And by the way, Nick, I know we didn't rehearse this, but I'd like to say I had a very interesting conversation last night with Patricio, who's right there in the stream. Patricio with all. It was really a nice conversation, and he's one of the co-founders of POAP, which was great at ETH Denver in 2019. Yeah, and he's so if you go, one of the things that we really want to do in this conference or in this summit is to massively expand the number of contributors in the github.com/ethereum-oasis/baseline repo. So do your pull requests, and if you get a pull request in there and merged during the summit, and maybe a little bit after, you'll get a POAP badge on the main net, and we'll award those to you as they're put in. So, and Patricio has a vision to have POAPs in every Ethereum conference in the world. So thanks, Patricio.
ETH Denver, DevCon, Baseline Summit, you know, your POAP wallet will get full with these wonderful digital tokens, NFTs that, you know, maybe one day will be worth some sushi. Sorry, bad, lame DeFi joke.
There's some pricey bounties coming in the hackathon. So
Yeah,
definitely participation will have its rewards.
So before we get started, and I you know, we kill the plenary and we let you go to the breakout sessions. I just want to take a moment, John. I'm very grateful for your recognition. But you know, this doesn't happen alone. This really has been a passionate work of effort from a large group of people. And I'm going to apologize right up front because I probably don't have everybody on here. And if you've contributed and your name's not on here, please accept my apologies. It was not my intent to single anyone out or not recognize anyone. I did my best to try to capture just everybody that was involved.
Let us know. We'll get you at the ending session.
Absolutely. Jane, couldn't say enough about the work that you've done over the last few weeks, right? We've gone from, you know, an idea of a conference to having this full-fledged, really beautiful Quigo chat platform that really, I think as you start to use it, you'll find it kind of lends itself to the working style. And in this sort of collaborative environment, it really could not have done it without you. Day in, day out, of course, the Eventbrite stuff, you know, I could go through every one of these individuals and tell you a little personal story about how they supported me over the last few weeks, let alone, you know, the work that they're doing day in, day out to make this conference as valuable and productive as possible for you, the attendees. So quick round of applause. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. You know, that's it from a prepared content perspective. Do we have any questions? I need to log out of Zoom and reconnect. Yeah, so when you go from one breakout to the next, you will notice in typical Zoom fashion, you'll get the little note that says you're leaving a video conference. Just want to make sure you know as you join the video from one breakout to the next, you are switching Zoom rooms. You can be in a Zoom room and check out the content in the other breakouts. And until you hit the green button at the top, you won't actually leave. But just keep that in mind as you're moving through the conference. All right, I'm looking for additional questions. Sounds like.
Hey, one other thing, just one more thing. If you want to be a maintainer, Sam Stokes is sort of the ringleader of that, but there's several maintainers in the summit right now. Brian Chamberlain, Karthik, and many others. Reach out to myself or any of them, and we'll start talking about being, you know, if you'd like to become a part of the maintainer team. Anybody can do it. All you need to do is do a pull request, and there's, in fact, on the docs.baseline-protocol.org site, you'll see all the requirements for being a maintainer.
Oh, and again, one more thing. There are a number of folks, myself included, that are going to be shuttling around, shuttle bugs, we like to call them, between sessions. You know, so please keep your eyes open for them if you have questions in a particular session. Yet at the same time, if you see me show up, please don't interrupt your session, or John show up. Please don't interrupt your conversation to say hi and all of that. Let's keep it focused on the task at hand, and really focus on driving the future of the Baseline protocol, our standards, our technical maturity, and everything associated with the community. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a great conference, and we'll see you on the show floor.
See everybody. And if anything goes wrong with your live streams or with the AV, I am performing AV services, so it's all my fault. So reach out to me if anything goes wrong with your session or if you don't have access to something.
Thanks, everyone. See you on the floor. I was just getting ready to point out to people that are still in the plenary that the Experience Baseline Protocol session. That's weird. How did I get over here? Oh, and I got my audio on the other side, so we are still live streaming. Just reminding folks that the sessions are beginning. The Experience Baseline Protocol session and the Blockchain Clients Improvements for Baseline is starting here at the top of the hour, right about now. So if you're still in the plenary and you're looking for a session to join, I'd recommend either Breakout 1 or what's the other number? Breakout 7. Again, you can click on the breakout, see the materials, and click the video to join the video. Zoom will remind you that you're leaving one Zoom room and moving to the other. That's kind of standard Zoom functionality. So if you need anything or have any questions, feel free to hit us up. All right. Now I'm going to go check out a session. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for joining the Baseline Protocol Summit. This is the plenary session. It stays open and will be running through the course of the conference, about 30 hours, and this is live streamed. That allows people that are late to come and check out the live stream, the recording, catch up asynchronously, if you will. To join another breakout, you go into the Quigo chat interface. Maybe I should just share my screen. There we go. This is the Quigo chat interface. You've got the breakouts here over on the left. You can click into any of the breakouts and look at the materials without leaving the session that you're in. In order to join the actual breakout, you click the join video button in the upper left-hand corner. That will switch Zoom rooms. You'll be prompted, it'll notify you that you're leaving one video chat and adding another. So you can just go ahead and do that whenever you like. I'll be back periodically throughout the day. We have some checkpoint sessions scheduled later in the day, just to check in and see how things are going. It's not mandatory to attend any of that, but if you have input or would like to participate, you're always welcome. Thank you, and enjoy the conference. Get us all back on the same page. So again, the breakouts are over here on the left. You hit the join video button to jump into the appropriate session that you're looking to join. If you look in the plenary session, there's a conference schedule tab that shows you the sessions that are actively scheduled and when they're going to be running. Down in the lower right-hand corner, there is chat, conference chat. So if you have questions during the conference about the conference, how to get somewhere, or looking for something, feel free to ask there. And of course, there is also chat within the Zoom rooms themselves. And I'm just checking to see if we have any questions. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And I'm your host, Nick Kritikos. Have a wonderful day. Hello, everyone. It's me, your host, Nick Kritikos, just checking back in, letting you know that we are fully underway now. We have 3 active sessions outside of the plenary. Breakout 1, Experiencing the Baseline Protocol and the Product Cookbook. The Zero Knowledge Circuit Improvement session as part of the core interfaces in Breakout 2. And Blockchain Client Improvements for supportive baselining in Breakout 7. Stephen, did you have a question? Nope. All right. Just wanted to check back in here, see if there were any questions or if anybody needed any help. We'll be back later today for a check-in. You can, if you missed the early opening comments, if you click on the plenary session and then the conference schedule tab, kind of right in the middle, upper middle of the page, you can see the entire conference schedule. So you can find sessions to hop into. And please keep in mind that the plenary sessions and breakouts 1 through 7 are all being live streamed and recorded. So thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Into the plenary to let you know it is now 1 minute after 1 o'clock on the East Coast, and the Global Phone Book Project session is now kicking off. So if you are interested in that or another session, there are 3 sessions in progress, or 4 sessions in progress, excuse me. the Experience the Baseline Protocol and the Product Cookbook session, the Global Phone Book Project, which again is just kicking off, Zero Knowledge Circuit Improvements, which is in its going into its second hour, as well as the beginning of the scaling of the baseline work step throughput session. Wow, that's a mouthful. So again, we've got a lot for you to choose from, depending on your area of technical expertise, and hope you're finding the sessions valuable. Thank you, and we'll see you again shortly. Good to see you, David. You can turn your camera on, show people off, show that great shirt you're wearing. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I want one of those. That's awesome. Where'd you get that?
He's got all baseline all the time. Awesome. So thanks everybody for joining us. This is our kind of midway checkpoint, if you will. The idea was to just come together in the plenary. We do have a couple of sessions that are still running, great conversations being had. So, this is on the live stream and is being recorded. But I thought it would be great just to, hear from our chairperson, as well as anyone else that wants to just kind of give impressions of today, maybe what we could do better tomorrow, and ultimately work together to make tomorrow an even more productive day. So, John, you've been jumping in and out of sessions. Do you have perspective on how it's going?
Yeah, Nick, hang on. I was just jumping over to fix another stream. I've been the AV person for the day. It's been fun. It's great to see all the activity. And I don't know if anybody else tried this, but it was super fun to turn on. I went into the playlist. If you haven't seen this, I think it's on a link on the main session board. There's a playlist of all the YouTube videos, live streams running concurrently. We're on it right now. And what's great about these is that, first of all, when people are not active in a channel or in a track, there's a bunch of like dead space, but those are going to be really easy to edit out into a really nice, tight set of videos at the end of all of this. So amazing that we have this technology. And so I just had fun by turning on the sound of multiple ones of these, and I got. Can you hear that?
So you get a colonoscopy, and let's just assume that all of the people.
That's like 4 different tracks running simultaneously. And then you add.
Auto change. So you mean that if, as a supplier, I sell my invoice to the
just proof.
Anyway, that I made a recording. I put it on Twitter for people. That's the sound of the magic bus right there.
I feel an amazing mashup coming.
Yeah, no, that was really, really a great experience to see that happening. I don't know about you guys, but this for 8 months, I've been attending webinars and conferences online, and I sit here in this studio and I do that, and it's exhausting. And I think part of the reason is that I'm missing something in those conferences. I'm missing bumping into somebody and having a one-on-one conversation that gets, where not only did I learn something, but I got to know somebody, and in either better or somebody brand new. And that happened to me solidly twice, almost basically three times today, where I found myself in a track with somebody, nobody else was there. We got talking, or somebody pinged me on our Slack and said, "Hey, I've really got this question, and I'm missing this kind of information from this track. Can you help me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's jump in a session." We get talking. I think that was the best thing, that moment when I was having real conversations one-on-one, or a couple people on one. And I'm hoping that now that we've gotten through a whole day of I'd say maybe 60, 70%, wouldn't you say, Nick, of the tracks have been sort of in that track of presenting some information to people. And that's really good. The education track is mostly about that, so it's fine there. And I haven't seen all of the tracks all the time. So I think some have done better than others on this, in terms of instead of getting quickly past, here's what you need to know. And now here's a problem. Let's work on that problem. Right. And so I think now we still have many hours to go. And so I think as we start to run out of things to say on off of our scripts, we're going to start saying, hey, let's have conversations. And that's where it's going to get really exciting. And it already is starting. So I'm quite excited. I'm quite hopeful of the result. And there have been some already a number of issues been created by different tracks, where the issues being GitHub issues that we can bounty. There are some wholly new ideas that I've heard from people. Last one I heard was from Mark Haddle, who's right there. Just by putting in the time and having the long conversations, kind of like we're so tweet oriented nowadays, we've forgotten how to read a long form book. This is the long form conference that we haven't had in 8 months. And it's, I don't know, maybe we've got a new genre here. I definitely think that we've, at least for ourselves, cracked the code in part. Hopefully tomorrow we'll really prove it out. That we've cracked the code on having a truly interpersonal conference. Nick, thank you for that time.
Yeah, one of the things that that we need to remind folks of is that it's great to level set people with some lecture or presentation, if you will, but to get to those conversations and really kind of peel the onion and identify opportunities for our hackathon in December, so that we can have a good set of projects. We've been very graciously funded by our leadership at Consensus to help fund some of those. So, we really want to make sure that they are as impactful as possible for the community. So, as you're going through your sessions tomorrow, keep that in mind. Yeah, and for me, it's been a great day. It's fantastic. The day's not over. There's still, I think Andreas is still scaling away in the scaling session. But we do have some of our session leaders here, Dan, Avia, Anjan. If you guys would care to make a couple of comments about your findings and kind of what you're seeing, that would be really welcome.
Sure, I can go first. Yeah, I thought that the discussions we've had over the past couple of hours in the experience track and with the cookbook, those have been fantastic. I think we've really covered a lot of ground and highlighted some great areas where, a cookbook can be designed so that in the future people can just jump in and get involved. I'm really looking forward to the rest of tomorrow's discussion. If anyone's interested, please definitely check out the track and also the notes page where we have that big Excel spreadsheet. Please continue putting ideas in there. We have a ton of stuff that we're going to continue to talk about. It's just really exciting, and add as much detail and also discuss. Yeah, it's just pretty amazing. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Daniel. You did such an amazing job, and Stefan and everyone who's presented. It's been so great. So thank you.
Thanks, Avia. Anjan, were you going to jump in?
Yes, thank you. So the expectation from our side that it's going to be a lot of people for tokenization that didn't fulfill, but actually the sessions were quite good. We maybe expected a little bit too much knowledge while we were preparing the sessions, and it ended up being more of a high-level discussion. But people who did participate, they did ask some really good questions, and there I see some feature requests that are going to pop up out of this. So I really liked it. I think for the hackathon, we could identify a number of spots that are going to be quite interesting to experiment with.
Anjan, how many people? I didn't get in there quite as often as I'd like. How many people were in there?
I think maximum with 13 at some point, 13, 14.
Oh, that's a wonderful number. And I will say that your track in particular, if you think about it, where open source meets competition, and in order for open source to be relevant, it needs to meet opportunities for competition some point. Otherwise, it's useless, right?
Yeah.
I should think that the tokenization, say, of a baseline invoice, that's where you're going to see a lot of competitors. So, and one would be well advised not to show up in an open source public domain environment, telling everybody how you're going to solve that particular problem. So I think you're a special case there, but I think 13 is a really good number.
Yeah, but also the point was not only to address, are we going to tokenize, but to find, can we abstract enough that we have a standard or a specification, a baseline specification on how to tokenize baseline record.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really where the value was, and having everybody on the call all the inputs from the contributors on the call, because they came with their own knowledge of their own industry. So a lot of the questions were really focused on, okay, but in my industry, that's how that works. So we need a verification step for this. And then the question was, oh, is the verification step required for all of other use cases, or is it very specific to that use case? And this is really the type of requirement that we try to gather. What is use case and industry specific versus what can be applicable regardless of the type of asset, regardless of the type of use case. And this is where specification requirements come from. So from that perspective, it was really insightful.
Awesome. Thanks, Denise. Thanks, Anjan. Dan, I know you've been talking all day, so if you have some comments and want to jump in, you're welcome to. If you want to rest your voice, I would totally understand.
No, it's good. Yeah, look, I mean, from our session over here, I'm just echoing everything that Avia said. I mean, the conversations have been awesome. Getting into it, right? It's like you never know if anyone's going to be participating or not, but everyone is participating. We were able to fill up, 30 something potential cookbook use cases, ideas, features of, we have to scrub them through, of course, but look, tomorrow should be really interesting. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes came out of your session from Justin Gaffney. And I think I got Gaffney wrong, but I'll get it. I'll fix it right here. The beauty of live entertainment. Baseline, in short, Baseline is a secure private validator for objects and JSON packages for enterprises who use different data sets. It's so succinct. It's pretty nice.
And that's one of the things that we tried to get out of this one. While it's not specifically code, we still need to, go back and forth on these different ways that we're introducing it. And I hope that the outcome of that session leads to some sort of slideware that everyone can go ahead and use.
Yeah, we talked to so many people, external people, clients, potential clients, potential baseliners about their businesses. And, we talk about baseline, and there is no silver bullet that kind of, groks it for everybody. You have to help them understand it within the context of their own business and their own requirements. So keep the testing coming. It's certainly welcome. The community welcomes it. I welcome it. And we can all get better through that. Any other comments before I jump in? I just want to cover quickly kind of some of the schedule stuff for tomorrow. All right, going into the conference.
Just real quick, one thing I probably forgot to mention was this needs to be on the record. And I didn't do it in the beginning, but I think it's fine. Anybody in this conference or in this summit is representing themselves. No one should assume that somebody's participation who might have, who you might find on LinkedIn and say, hey, they're at company X. Don't assume that company has any intentions. It's something that, for the record, we want to make sure everybody knows, so that everybody who is participating is safe, because not every company has, gone to the CEO and made it an official thing yet. So kind of like early days of Java, when we were all helping out with Java, but nobody told us we could yet. So I want everybody to know, just that's on the record, and I've said those words.
Thanks, John. And real quick, I'm freezing that pane so I can scroll over a little bit. Look at that. That's amazing. Sometimes I do know how Google Sheets works. So tomorrow, we're going to pick it back up starting at 8 a.m. East Coast time with oracles and external data. We're pretty excited. That's going to be essentially session led by Patrick Collins and Johan Eid from Chainlink and supported by Devin Mitchum from Google. I think they've got some pretty exciting things to share with everyone, and it should be a great conversation, even if it is a little early for us West Coasters. That's okay. And then, back into the swing. We'll do a little morning kickoff session at 10 a.m. Again, just to kind of get people back in their seats and make sure everyone's comfortable. Other sessions will be going on. The core interfaces session with persistence and messaging. Kyle and Gina are going to do a session. You see it between 1 and 2 tomorrow, East Coast time. And I put it across all blocks because it's in that breakout room. Breakout 2 on the Nethermind and Provide, essentially baseline as a service, the Provide stack. A number of sessions today, whether you heard from Don Steele or Dan or anybody else, you've heard a lot about kind of the Provide Bright, as Kyle calls it, stack. And just thought it would be helpful for people to get a view of that and maybe get some hands-on. Kyle has the intent of making it as technical as possible. And if anybody can do it, Kyle can. So just to call that out.
Maybe Kyle in that session can also help take people through the core interfaces as well. And I've heard a couple people would like to get more details on that.
Cool. I will get that to him. With that, it's been a pretty full day. Been online a lot. John, it's very entertaining with all of the streams going. I've got it going as well on my other machine. I've got the audio turned off so I can pay attention. I may multitask as part of my day job, but I still haven't gotten to the point where I can multitask my audio. If I can do that, then I'll be a much more efficient learner. That's for sure.
I installed like 6 NVIDIA cores into my head before we started the conference. So I'm multi-streaming.
Just last night, I was watching TV, looking at my iPad, listening to my wife, and my son was asking me something, and I had to ask him to repeat it. And he's like, "What? You weren't listening to me?" I'm like, "Well, come on. How many inputs can I deal with here?" Anyway, all jokes aside, if anybody has any questions, now's a great time to ask. If not, we'll just kind of thank everybody for your participation, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Oh, if you do have some inspiration, or there's a small group of you, or perhaps you're watching the live stream from Asia Pacific, and you want to get into the sessions and have more discussion, you're welcome to do that. The conference floor will remain open. The streams are active. So,
we might take the streams down for a few minutes, recycle them, which would generate new streams.
Okay.
But that's okay. They'll all be in the playlist that you have the link for. So just be aware of that. We might take it down. We may not, but we're working through that. Also,
we'll be able to check if a room has people actively in it before we bounce it, right? We should be able to.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, and I don't even need to do that to recycle them.
I just don't want to cut anybody off if they're in the middle of a conversation.
Right. Yeah, we'll make sure not to do that. And I'd just like to say once more, if you don't mind me saying, Nick, from now to the end of the session, tomorrow at 4 or 5 o'clock, find a person that interests you and pull them aside, have a conversation, do yourself that favor. I think that's the most important thing to take away from this conference.
Yeah, some really great attendees and participants, and this is a great forum for doing that. Been pleasantly surprised with the quality of the conference platform. All the jumping in and out of Zoom, the fact that we've got our documents. Really pleased with the level of professionalism and focus that everybody has brought to the conference, to the summit, and it's great. It feels. Like I mentioned earlier, right? John has this metaphor about the rocket, and we're launching this rocket to the moon. And, we're just about done with the first stage, getting ready to separate and light the second stage. And I can really kind of feel that energy. And it's very gratifying. I look forward to making the world a better place through our technical work, even though it's boring or maybe boring. Boring is the new exciting, right? We don't need to rip and replace your system of record. We can integrate it using public infrastructure and do it in a fashion that's more accessible to more of your trading partners. What could be more valuable than that? All right.
Well, and on that, we'll take you out with a little magic bus.
Yeah, I was waiting for the music.
And again, this isn't the end of the conference. It's just that we have to eat, and I have to put some kids to bed. But everything stays live. Andreas is probably just on his first wind. He's probably ready to go another 10 rounds. I saw him just jump in. By the way, people go to that track on the live stream, scrub back and listen to the geniuses work. I think that was a pretty amazing track. And so we'll see you. I'll be popping in and out most of the evening, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, we have some made, so scaling was a small group, but we made some great progress. If people want to review what was done, you can do that directly in the we documented everything in the diagrams.net file. So go check it out. We made some real great progress. You now know that we need workflow IDs, workflow instance IDs and nonces and all the good stuff. So to make John happy that things are staying in line and in the right order.
Right on. Okay. Well, and now we're going to take you out with some Magic Bus.
Cue the music.
A colonoscopy. So you get a colonoscopy, and let's just assume that all of the people, all of the participants are in your care network. Everything's in network.
So you mean that if, as a supplier, I sell my invoice to the factory company, how is it done privately?
You're going to get
Well,
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Nick, how was it?
Good, real good. All the sessions
Yeah.
are popping, and people are engaged, and yeah, it's going. I shouldn't say this because we'll crush ourselves tomorrow, but it's
Well, and we are still on live stream.
yeah, but it's going. It's more smooth. I'm seeing the platform and the Zoom rooms and all of that, right? When we talked about some of the risks of this whole setup earlier in the week in the planning, we talked about people losing internet or whatever, and of course yesterday YouTube went out.
Dude, it's flooding here.
Yeah,
Like we had a big storm. It's right, Mark? Yeah. My wife comes up. She's like, "Yeah, we have a river behind the house, and like it's hitting the berm." And I'm like, "Oh, there goes my internet connection." And I'm like,
John,
"Thank God that we
out.
did that those Azure instances."
yeah, good thing it's on Azure.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it's like
Brilliant.
otherwise everything would be resting on John being able to balance a laptop on a boat underneath an umbrella.
Yeah, running power through the flooding to
running power with a big battery. Big
It's
car
been done.
battery.
I've done it before.
I know. I'm sure you have, John. I'm sure you have.
In addition to that, the Zoom infrastructure has been working really well.
Yeah.
Good.
I saw some of our friends in software running a Zoom session that was having some challenges, and we haven't had any of those. And it's
the
Knock on wood.
obviously running those out of a cloud next to a hub is probably a good idea. There's a business in that, man. I'm telling you. I think we got to talk to Lucas and Kiko Chat. I think there's business in doing that. You know how hard it was to figure out how to do this, dude? Hard. I couldn't find anything. I mean, usually, give me 10 minutes in a YouTube video and I'll find something, but there was nothing on doing it this way anywhere. Down to the point where I had to, I only tripped over figuring out how to run. I was going to run it all out. Andreas, you probably know, I was going to run it all on my spare Mac. And, and I figured out how to hack the terminal with -N to bring up multiple instances of Zoom. Not even that was out there in, where I could find it easily. I had to stumble over it.
I hear you. It's like the cloud is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is finally. So I remember when it wasn't. So I guess we're
good.
Yeah, we have to just. I guess we'll go offline and we'll talk about. The only thing I have anxiety about is what happens when we shut those live streams down and something goes wrong and we don't get the recording.
How long?
I don't think it's a high probability, but it worries me a little bit.
I don't think so, because I think once you shut it down, it's just I mean, it's just processing it's just converting the video, right? It's just into, I mean, the file's there, right? Zoom has the file. It's just processing. It's just like Google, right?
Yeah.
When it
Well,
processes the video.
let's vacate this so that when we're doing the editing, we can find the good stopping points.
My hope here is I hope that after playing all the big video montage and everything like that, or at least the audio montage, that I'm not going to be known as the colonoscopy guy.
Yeah, and
Oh, I heard you saying that.
Like 5 times.
Hey, dude, you're in good company. I say it all the time.
All good.
And this Kevin Turner
it's something
guy,
that some of us have to deal with, right?
this Kevin Turner guy has been at the conference all day, and that's great. I used to work with Kevin Turner at Microsoft. I wonder if it's the same one.
Well, you should reach out and have a one-on-one.
He's right there. Is that you, Kevin?
That was the best moment for me, man. When
is that you?
Huh?
He was just coming off mute. I was just.
I was going to say no. I did not work with you at Microsoft, unfortunately. So.
All right. Well,
you should still have a one-on-one. Just go.
Yeah, we can still
grab some time.
Yeah, Kevin Turner was the almost CEO of Microsoft. So used to be at Walmart and all of that stuff. So a very wonderful businessman.
Right on. Andreas, you weren't. I think you weren't. You were still wrapping your session up. But I mean, the coolest thing was having these one-on-one breakouts. So I hope you avail yourself of that tomorrow. It's so great to just kind of you start talking to somebody, you pull them aside, and you jump into I think we jumped into a couple of side rooms, and talk. You just get to know people. It's really great.
Yeah, I was
going to a conference.
I was like busy. It was like until pretty much now. It was nonstop.
Yeah, I heard you did great. All right, I'm gonna drop out of here, Nick.
All right.
Let me know if you want to. I guess we do need to postmortem with Jane, so I'll see you in a minute.
Cheerios.
I'll ping you there.
See you guys.
Thanks.
Get some sleep.
Bye.
Or stay on all night. It's fine either way. Hey, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, I don't know that it's the plenary was well advertised this morning for today.
Okay.
So it may be slow. And
we'll give it a few minutes, give people a chance to roll in.
I can also do one of those bells, little notification.
Yeah, do the bell. Yeah, do the bell. It's a good idea. There's a lot of people in the different tracks.
Do we have an updated playlist?
Yes. If you go into the playlist, all the new
there we go.
Tracks are there. Might have to read. Yep.
I was just looking at day 1. Track 2. Oh, they're all there. Oh, day 2. They're there. Day 2, Oracles, Protocol, Edition, Education, Plenary, Great Hall. There we go.
Yep. And I'm going to switch over to the Zoom client and set this to gallery view. Oh, that's
what that sound is. Hey,
nice.
David. Good to see you again.
Good morning, gents.
I was wondering what that bell was for, Jane.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. It goes all into every track. So if you want to pull everybody out of something, that's the way to do it.
Speaking of which, I'll go into the.
Didn't realize what it was.
Yeah, let me real quick. I'll do an announcement on the general session. Somebody else may have already done it. Okay, yeah. At everyone or at channel summit.
Nick, we also added last night Rocket Chat.
I saw that. Yep.
So you can instant message people
In the conference, yes.
in the conference, correct?
Summit or tune in at. Gotta say, I'm really liking how all this is turning out. It's very intimate. People get to tune in and really see people talking things through. This morning, there has been an amazing. Oh, by the way, we just hit 800 people in actives in our Slack channel.
Nice.
Yeah. So this morning we had 2 really good sessions, and they were all down into the code.
Beautiful.
Sam Stokes and Brian Chamberlain right now are conducting a persistence layer session that we'll want to give an advert for during this. And
all right.
Yep.
And the Oracle's an external data session. Sounds like it was hopping.
Yeah, at 7 a.m. It wasn't hopping, but the fact that we can time shift backwards, people are doing that. I'm looking at the numbers going up on that. So
good.
There was about 100 people tuning in.
That's pretty good. All right. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here in a few minutes. We're just giving everybody a few moments to transfer from their sessions or get online, depending on where you are in the world.
I've just got a couple of announcements, Nick. So this feels like more like camp day 2, where it's like, okay, we're having spaghetti for dinner tonight, and the Sadie Hawkins dance is at 4.
I should have worn my approved baseline hat.
I needed to, because I overslept and just barely made it to turn everything on for the 7 a.m. Setup.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. It doesn't take much to tame this hair, just a lot of gel. So
you're going to start to look like Paul Horn, the ex head of IBM Research. He had exactly that dude going on.
Either that or Steven Seagal. He's my wife.
Depends on which era you're talking. You want to go there.
Exactly. Hopefully the early Steven Seagal, not the late Steven Seagal.
Yeah, he might be watching. Watch out. All right, shall we kick her off?
Yeah.
We could give it a little more time.
Yeah, we are. It's 10:04. So, and I see Brian and Sam are still deep in it in the.
Yeah, and that's really encouraging, because yesterday was a lot more about like presenting stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like already today is about. And I think the numbers will go down, but the real work is going to
depth of the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, people who are ready to tap on keyboards are here.
Awesome. Make sure I got all my streams up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm missing one. I'll figure it out later. All right.
I think we're going to need to write an AI to handle going through and extracting the value from all this footage. It's a lot of footage.
Yeah, but you should be able to use the conference schedule to at least narrow it down, right? And then quickly scrub the rest to see if there was sidebar conversations, things like that.
Yep.
All right. Good morning, Avia. Aaron, Anise, nice to see you all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Great show.
Oh, it's just halfway through, Aaron. We've got another full day of greatness. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Make sure I've got something to share. All right, there we go. Oops, wrong button. When doing something like this and doing it from home, one, it's very helpful when you have a separate office like my own, right? So I can leave my house and come anytime, day or night, and be relatively loud and not wake up the family while they're still sleeping, right? The kids have school today or work, but they don't have to be up for another hour and a half. How lucky are they?
I tied my family up in the attic. They're
But it's interesting because I got great wonderful support from my wife. She brought me breakfast and lunch yesterday, and she's planning to do the same today. So I don't actually have to go anywhere. The downside is that in the evenings, the kids who are 18 and 15, but they're still children, they expect all the same usual stuff. So, they're living their lives, and, blending the two together sometimes can be fun. Anyway, enough about me. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for day 2 of the Baseline Protocol Summit 2020. I am, of course, I'm your host, Nick Kritikos, joined by John Walpert, Jane Harnad, Avia, and many others, right? It takes a village. And we're excited about the second day here. We've got a couple of things. The conference is really already underway. If you were not aware, and look, I got to adjust this a little bit. There we go. We'll see how the scrolling got fixed.
Oh, that's why. Folks were confused about the Oracle start date. So some folks thought it was going to start at 8. So,
yeah. It started at 7, right?
It did start at 7. Yeah, but it's all good. That's the nice thing about live streaming.
I could have sworn I had that greened out. All right. Anyway, so we had Oracles that started at 7 a.m. on the East Coast. The core interfaces persistence session is going on even as we speak. We've got another check-in on the blockchain client improvements. It looks like that they dropped that in there, so they may be.
Connor's over here, so I'm guessing that they're gonna start after the plenary.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Yeah, that just might be a snafu. I'll just color in another green spot so people know to look for you, Connor. Other things to note is the experience baseline protocol and product cookbook session is going to swing back into action for another full day of use case exploration, demo exploration, and ultimately trying to bring us together to put together the recipe book, if you will, for product companies or ISVs that are looking to add baseline capabilities to their own products. After the persistence session, there's a core interfaces messaging session led by Kyle Thomas. Make sure to check that out. There's going to be a lot of discussion, I expect, around message formats and trying to determine if we should be proactive in specifying what those formats should be for interoperability and things like that. The Global Phone Book Project is going to check in again from 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, really, just kind of taking that the next step. Nethermind and Provide are going to do a quick overview of their baseline as a service platform. If you've listened to many of the sessions, whether it's the Experience Baseline Protocol, where the Envision team talked about the SAP and Dynamics demo done with Unibright and Provide, or Dom Steele talking about his DApp on the App Exchange on Salesforce, also using the Provide platform. Thought it would just be a great opportunity, and it's supposed to be a very technical session. So to get your eyes on that and kind of see if it could add value for you. And then of course the Scaling Baseline work step throughput session with Andreas is coming back as well this afternoon to kind of tie up loose ends. So we've got another full day of content planned. It's going to be a great day. We do plan to do a wrap-up session at 4 o'clock Eastern. So, look at the schedule and keep that top of mind. If you hear this bell, Jane, do you want to do the bell? I heard this yesterday. I didn't know what it was. So if we could get Jane to hit the bell again. There you go. If you hear that bell, that means we're going to be getting started in the plenary session. So it should be good to go. And as you can see, our friend Taquigo Chat, Lucas, has added Rocket Chat directly into our interface. So if you want to be able to chat directly with other participants,
should be able to find them as well.
Yeah, you should be able to find them. Wolpert. I don't know if we have everyone loaded. We'll have to check on that. Anyway, we'll get to the bottom of that, but look for it. Something else to point out that Jane showed me yesterday that I thought was kind of neat. If you're interested in such things, if you go to the RSVP page, get my connection working, and you see here that we have present and RSVPs. It should reload here in a sec.
Whoa.
Yeah, but you can go to a map view. Oh, it's not working this morning. Maybe it's my connection. you can go to the map view. There we go. And you can see where the registrants are from. Pretty impressive. We got a great group of folks from the US and Europe, a little bit of APAC. You know, as I look at this, thinking about the community, I think we need to do more in the future to engage, you know, the India, Chinese, Philippines, Singapore, really the whole Hong Kong, Asia Pacific area. I think there's a great opportunity for Baseline there, and we just need to do what we can to try to pull in our colleagues in that time zone and really be just more amenable and make it easier for them to do this. Of course,
we might want to create if you don't mind me breaking in, Nick,
yeah, sure.
This is kind of more of this isn't quite as an official plenary, I suppose, as yesterday was.
Right.
But don't let me run you down. It strikes me that we might be able to create a chapter over there where you know we're starting to get to the point where we're maturing into something where we could have chapters in different time zones where the main sessions are happening at different times. Time zone is a terrible tyrant.
Yes, it is. But anyway, nonetheless, you know, we got a full day of content. We're going to be rolling up our sleeves. Please keep the focus on trying to identify hackathon projects for our December hackathon. We've got wonderful prizes and things to give. And John, you wanted to make a few announcements. So why don't I go ahead and turn the floor over to you?
Oh, sure. Thanks. No, I wanted to be sure that everybody knows that there's a nugget of really good information and knowledge. Patrick Collins from Chainlink came by this morning and did a whole demo. It's got code. You can download the code. And we got really quite, Anais was there and some others, those of us who got up early in the US Eastern time zone. And I'm pretty sure there were no Californians there. That was really early for them. But yeah, we had some folks from Europe and East Coast and then Singapore. And yeah, it was a good session, and it really got into what do you do with exogenous data and how do we get that into, how do we manage it in a baseline workflow? And we got into what, you know, whether you set it up as a validation for ZK snarks, or but zero knowledge, the zero knowledge circuit, to say, you know, if this doesn't comport with this oracle, then I'm going to fail that proof, that sort of thing. We got really into it, and it's a nice piece of work, and you can scrub back to it if you go into the Oracle's live stream and for day 2. And I would strongly encourage doing that. Also, go back earlier this morning to the core interfaces live stream and scrub through what Sam Stokes and folks were talking about before the plenary started. That said, you know, I think all of the live streams yesterday have some real nuggets in there. And today, I think what's going to be the thing to do is build, is really just come down and have real conversations like the one that the core interfaces conversation. They were actively architecting ideas for how to go forward. And the last point is, you know, really focus on creating issues, because, you know, one of the things we wanted to see at the end of this was issues that we can bounty in the hackathon in 3 weeks in the beginning of December. Also, if you're an engineer, do some pull, you know, get in there. Do not be afraid of doing pull requests. We'd love to have you on the contributor list on the github.com/Ethereum-Oasis/baseline repo. Get your name on that list. Get yourself a pull request and become an active part of the community.
Yeah, and you know, there's benefit in doing that, John. And not only is it great for the baseline protocol and great for personal recognition, perhaps depending on, you know, the degree of work that you're doing and how engaged you get, but you also get a vote, right? By contributing to the repo, you become a voting member of this community, so you can participate in things like TSC elections and, you know, things of that nature. So
that's really right. I should say a lot of companies are still getting. Actually, a lot of companies have now made it official that their members or sponsors or or what have you of Baseline Protocol community.
For which we're
But
very grateful.
we are very grateful, and it's very cool to see them all coming in. And now we're seeing very conservative companies that really have to go through up and down the chain to make sure that they're okay with being officially supportive. But really, membership is simply what Nick said. It's, did you contribute or not? And we think of, you could have 2,500 people from a company contributing, and we're thinking about those 2,500 people more than we are necessarily about what company they work for. Although we're also very grateful for the sponsorship from the companies. So feel free to come in. Everything is public domain. And if you are in a company that has an open source software committee, of course, you want to make sure to consult them. And I'll say again for the record that anyone showing up on any of the live streams in this event, it should be assumed that they are representing themselves, and not one should not assume anything about the intentions of their company by their participation.
Thanks, John. And just another quick reminder, John mentioned this briefly, but I just want to make sure we call it out. If you're looking at the YouTube playlist and leveraging that for the streams, we refreshed the streams last night to make it a little bit easier for our recording and editing. So make sure you're looking for the day 2 sessions. Otherwise, well, you're welcome to go to the day 1 sessions and scrub through them if you're catching up. But if you're trying to watch the live meet content, the live content, make sure you're on day 2. I just fell into that myself with the oracles. I was scrubbing through the oracles trying to find the content, and then I looked up and I realized, oh, that was day 1, and there was a good reason why I couldn't find it. So,
and once again, I should probably say that the best thing that happened, at least to me on the yesterday, and I've heard it from a couple other people, was finding themselves in private conversations with people. I mean, seriously, pick a person in a session, say, hey, let's go over and talk about this and somewhere else, and get to know them. It is the best thing. I forgot how much that was a part of the conference experience before COVID. So do yourself a favor and do that. I've already made a couple of friends, and hope you do too.
I was reflecting on that because you mentioned it last night in the closing comments, John. And the conferences of old, right? You'd go to a conference all day, sit in wonderful technical sessions, and then after the conference you'd break and get together with some friends for pizza or a dinner, or maybe a couple beers or something, depending on who you are, and you'd spend 2, maybe 3 hours really kind of getting to know each other and sharing ideas, and oftentimes the conversation revolved around the main topic of whatever you were there to talk about. But you also got to know people individually and what motivates them and why they're doing this. And it just makes it just a lot more collaborative, and anyway, more human. It's difficult when we're separated by distance, even though, we may be close in heart to heart, but anyway.
I still miss the boozy dinners, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I had a couple glasses of wine last night with my lovely wife. I used to make a joke when we were doing conference runs where, I miss sleeping in my own bed, kind of thing. And now I get the best of both worlds. We get wonderfully productive, engaging conferences, and I get to sleep in my own bed. Anyway, enough idle chitter chatter. Are there any questions from the audience? Remember, there is always contact the host if you have questions during the conference. If you have questions now, you can bang them out on the Zoom chat, which I need to open. Oh, hi, John. Hi, Anise. Just checking out the chat. Other than that, I think we're good to go. Any last words of wisdom, John?
I'm not sure. Does the Rocket Chat, when you chat somebody, does it ping? Does that person, if they don't have that open, do they see that they've received a chat?
So I'm in the process of testing it. Oh, I see Kirk Ballou.
Hey, Kirk.
Yeah, I can't see how to find other people in this, as you can see.
Hit search button. That search thing should do it.
And I presume you're Jay Wolpert, right?
I think I'm Stanley Kohlrabi, and I think I am.
Okay, no, I don't get anything out of the search.
Oh well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So anyway, We do have, coming back, I got to move my windows around here, the conference schedule. We do have the closing ceremony, as I mentioned, the closing comments today at 4. I already mentioned that. Trying to run through my list in my mind, check my notes. Get your GitHub IDs to John if you haven't done that. Join Slack if you haven't done that. I think that's it, John.
Yeah, I think it is.
Awesome.
All right, campers, back to your we're going to have rope climbing in a half hour. We'll have pizza for lunch and spaghetti for dinner. And make sure to, that code competition at midday should be fun.
Get your beads and your string. We're going to make necklaces to take home to your parents.
Yeah, your parents will be picking up at 5 p.m. sharp and at the front gate.
That reminds me of a time. A quick side. The kids went to summer camp, essentially, with school. It was their, 5th grade away camp kind of thing, overnighter, and they're gone for a week. And at some point during the camp, they make all the kids write a letter home to their parents. And Dimitri, my oldest, wrote a letter home, and he's like, "Hey, having fun at camp. They made me write this so I could get food."
Awesome.
That was the extent of his note. No love, Dimitri, or nothing. They made me write this so I could get food. So anyway, kids are great. I never knew what happiness was till I had children. Now it's too late. So everybody have a wonderful day. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you know where to find us. And we'll see you in the sessions.
See you.
All right. Where am I going to go now? What do I want to check out? The oracles and externals data is wrapped up, right, John?
Well, I mean, John, Patrick had limited time, so they came in and did a demo, and we got it in the can. So I mean, it's
right. No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
But I'm very hopeful that that's not the end of that conversation. There's a lot of. I'm going to be watching to see if there are engineers and architects that hop in there and self-organize around that stuff, because I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the primary reason why I was asking is because I'm trying to keep the schedule up to date to make it easier for folks when, people want to look at the live streams, like, oh, when was that? Was that day 1, day 2, in the beginning of the day, end of the day, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, coming back, your hope for that track is that some of the people will jump back in.
One of the things in the road mapping, and really this is a whole, this whole camp is right now is, we should call it a camp from now on. It's not a summit, it's a camp. That's what it's code camp. Anyway, engineering camp, whatever. I think in a way, the fact that we have the semi-organic self, like the zero knowledge stuff, self-organized, largely outside of those known the grain tracks, and it just kept going and going. There was just mavens in there that cared about it. The phone book project did that largely as well, but less so, right? And I think it's an indication of timeliness, although the phone book definitely is timely.
Yeah.
The question is, are we at a maturity level where figuring out how to get that exogenous data into a circuit or into a workflow step is the thing that people are worried about. It might be the next camp where but eventually this is going to be a major issue. Right now, I think people are just trying to figure out how to get like a purchase order baselined. But when you have to say, well, but this purchase order is, it costs, the price is this if it's, at 11:59, and this and another value if it's at 12 o'clock. Now you have to be sure that everybody calculated against the same input parameter, right? Mm-hmm. But it might be that we're not to that point where that is boiling yet, and if we don't see a lot of activity in that channel, that'll be something we'll look at, is which channels, which tracks got activity that was outside of the green zones.
Yep.
And that'll tell us a lot about prioritization, I think.
Right on. really quick, while we still have some folks in the plenary, I figured out how to use Rocket Chat. So I shared my screen again. You have the Rocket Chat button up here, just above the breakout list. If you open that up, we now have Rocket Chat. If you want to find a user, this is where I went wrong. There's actually two searches. There's a channel search and a person search. You click on the person search and you could type up here someone's name. Let's say Mark Haddle. Whoops, I've got to get my keyboard working. Search. I just did it a minute ago.
Yeah, I just got it. Here, let me see. Yeah. I'm going to ping you. Direct message. Hi, Nick. Where's the canteen? Oh, you did get a ping.
Yeah, I heard a ping, but I don't see any. Oh, there it is. Wolpert. There you go. Where's the canteen?
All right.
So there we go. Yeah, we've got some chat. You can ping people now in the conference. And as you know, I heard the bell that Jane showed us earlier that, you know, come to the plenary. I heard that yesterday. I didn't know what it meant. So we'll get better at this next time. And I'm already starting to think about the next one, John. Like
totally.
When do we want to do this again? Is it going to be a full
next week,
year?
right?
Well, I don't know about that, but do we want to do it twice a year, maybe once a quarter? I don't know. It's other than the time and effort that goes into coordinating it, and that's not insignificant. The energy around the conference and the participation, and just the ability to get everybody together in one place. It's awesome.
I haven't reviewed every stitch of footage, but I've seen no inappropriate behavior either. I mean, none.
Let's not
knock on wood. No, yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's a testament to the community. It's all been very professional, and even the very, even the hottest of arguments has not been mean in any way. So it's been great so far.
Rock and roll. All right, everybody. As we were saying, have a wonderful conference, and we'll talk to you today at 4:00 Eastern when we do our closing comments. There are a couple sessions that look like they're scheduled to go a little bit beyond that, which is totally fine. We'll let everybody know when we get back together how long the streams will be on, and we'll leave it at that. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
See you. Hey, everybody.
What's up, John?
Hey, Jane. If we were in an actual place, we would be buying you a lot of drinks.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah, we need that. We need the. If only we had matter materializers, we would basically not have to. We could just send you materialize a drink over there for you.
I'll craft my own. How about that?
Earl Grey hot.
He crafts her own. That's what I'm going to do after this call. I'm going to go and craft my own.
I really miss or wish we had the replicators from Star Trek, right?
You know what I miss? It's the Vulcan mind meld that I mostly wish, because just the translation problems between brains, it's so hard to make sure that that you're thinking about the same thing the same way. That would be a nice little trick.
And I ran into the house for a minute just to freshen my water and whatnot. And my 15-year-old is all over me to set up port forwarding so he can, queue steam engines and all the kinds of stuff. So,
all right.
I've got an afternoon project. Actually, I don't have to do much. I just have to give him the green light to do it. He'll do it himself. He wanted to do it on Wednesday, and I'm like, yeah, don't do any messing with our network when I've got this conference tomorrow.
Please. Right?
Yeah, that's the last thing I need. He was on a
dump the config.
Yeah, he was on a Grand Theft Auto lobby about a month ago, I guess, on a Sunday night. My wife and I were out having dinner. We came home and he's like, Dad, the network's down. I guess somebody in the lobby just kind of knocked everybody in the lobby off the network. I had to completely reset our gateway, the whole 9 yards, and then reset everything in the house. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. So I try to make sure, he's not doing anything like that during the working hours. Don't worry, Kyle, your kids will be old enough soon.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking about how the request to, hey, Daddy, can you come beat this Mario level turns into, hey, I need access to the router. Like,
yeah. Turns into, hey, Daddy, let me show you how to beat this Call of Duty level or whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mario's
a little more tame, I think.
Yeah. You know, it's tough when the kids get older to keep them away from all that stuff because their friends
Oh,
have
no,
it.
yeah. It's going to happen. It's inevitable.
Inevitable, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've restricted it such that there are no consoles in the house. They are you know only relegated to online games.
Yeah, that was very difficult when I worked at Microsoft not to have the latest consoles available.
I can imagine.
I was, my kids are very ambitious, so they started building their own computers when they were like 8, 9, 10. Their latest projects actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my youngest now has a liquid cooled dual video card rig that's it's quite impressive, but that liquid cooling stuff, I don't know, more trouble than it's worth, I think.
Oh yeah, I remember that liquid cooling with glycerine, not with water, with glycerine.
Yeah, the old days. Yeah, exactly.
Mineral oil. I've seen people do with like a non-reactive mineral oil.
We actually built a liquid cooled miner when I first started at Consensus about 3 years ago, and it really was heating up the house, even though it was liquid cooled pretty well.
Yeah, I have a Corsair liquid cooling rig. I mean, the new ones now are really great. I mean, I've never had an issue with my Corsair one, my i7.
But you bought it that way.
Well, yeah, I bought it self-contained, right? It's not like a DIY, right? Yeah, so it's designed to not leak much, or it hasn't. No, it's been great. It's been great, but it does heat up the room quite a bit. I need to install.
Yeah, the first ones, the first liquid cooled CPUs that were not supposed to be liquid cooled, made it possible to keep tropical fish very, very comfortable because the heat exchange was the aquarium.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You guys want to see what I've been? This has been what I've been looking at for the last 4 days.
Oh, nice.
Is that a new camera?
No.
There's
you guys.
John and his toys.
I'm not seeing what the camera's seeing. Where are you?
It's peeping John.
You're never alone in John's house.
There we go.
Oh, okay, now I'm getting the.
That's a creepy thing to say, Nick.
So I've been looking at you guys for the last 3 days. That's been.
That's super meta.
Yeah, this is my life now. Here else.
Yeah, so many in our lives.
All right, I think we've got critical mass. We've got a few people coming over. Looks like all the live streams are pretty quiet now. The only one still making noise is so that's a step in the right direction.
We do have one at 5. There's one at 5.
Yeah, I was gonna call that out. This is the closing session, but as the nature of this conference, with our somewhat kind of organic scheduling and letting the leaders and the key contributors kind of define and find times, there is another session at 5 o'clock Eastern at the top of the next hour, 2 o'clock West Coast time, on zero knowledge proofs, and you're going to go into more deeper than you went before, right? It's around I'm trying to remember what Lucas was saying before. Do you remember, Kyle?
We're going to talk about bridges, essentially around the exit proof from one work group to another. And there's a GitHub issue that we created yesterday about that.
So zero knowledge bridges, is that right?
Baseline bridges, but yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
using zero knowledge to exit a work group and allow another work group, or basically allow that terminated business process to be withdrawn, so to speak, into another work group.
Gotcha. Cool. So again, that session is at 5 Eastern, so at the top of the hour. But this is our previously scheduled kind of time for wrapping up and taking a moment to come together and to recognize all the hard work from our leaders, not only John and Kyle and of course Andreas and Jane and everybody, quite frankly. I'm trying to see who else is on this list here.
And you.
Yeah,
of
course.
Sam, Jane.
Yeah, everybody. Sam. I mean, it's the problem with these things. TJ, of course. The problem with these things is that you need to thank everybody, and we want to thank everybody. And when we're doing it sort of off the cuff, and we don't have the scrolls, the distributed ledger of participants, it's hard to remember everybody.
Let's just try to make everybody wildly successful. That should do.
And that's the key, right? So I feel pretty good about this summit. I think it's gone off really well. I've been very, very personally very pleased with the performance of the platform, the engagement with the people in the sessions, the level of conversation. We may be falling a little short on the hackathon topics, but I noticed.
I don't know.
I noticed, thanks to your prodding, that today it definitely upticked, and I think we may have a good list.
I think there's a lot of dark matter in there that just needs to surface over the next couple of days.
Yeah, the new feature sessions were somewhat lightly attended. I don't think we did a good job at kind of positioning what those were. Yet at the same time, as I attended other sessions, I heard ideas for new features and enhancements in there. So we will be holding debrief sessions. We'll get those in the books as soon as possible. It'll probably be middle of next week so that people can digest stuff, give us a chance to collect all the artifacts, and just, have an ongoing discussion about where we go from here. With that, let me turn it over to John and see if you've got any words of wisdom or comments.
I'm just tweeting, hey, show up to the plenary. All right, there we go. Wow. Somebody asked me how was it going, and I was like, okay, if I told you how I thought it was going, I would be accused of hyperbole, and rightly so. It's I cannot think how it could have gone better. The amount of effort that went into setting it up, I think we can bring that down by 10x as we go forward to the next ones. We can automate a lot of things that we had to do manually. But I think it was amazing. I also, I look forward to a time when having to go round the clock is absolutely necessary. I don't think this time, I don't think I caught any activity after 5 or after 6 or 7 last night and before 6 or 7 this morning, which means that there's a whole side of the planet that needs to get lit up, and that's fine. That's going to happen. We're starting to see some people pop up. There's some India leaders already in India that are popping up, and we're just going to need to empower them and enable them to set their course on those time zones. So I think that is clearly happening. The thing I was worried about the most walking into this was, were we going to have so much dead air and so little activity that people could look right there on the web in front of everybody and know that we were making a big deal out of nothing? And that has not happened by any stretch. The real work, I think I've never seen anything like this in my experience in 30 years, where we did, it's not just about a conference. It's not just about a summit. It's not even about, even an architecture summit. It's about, we produced novel work in real time in eight tracks of it. 8 track. It's like 8-track tape. And and it worked. And I was almost late to this plenary because somebody else pulled me aside and we had an amazing conversation. And then I mentioned it on the chat, and like 7 people showed up to talk about this one side topic. That was the best. That's what we're here for. So I couldn't be happier with how this last 2 days and the week has gone. And I think the proof will be, we've massively expanded the number of people that can get into the roadmap repo who have actually gotten in there. And now what the proof will be in the pudding of cooking out how many people have been energized to actually produce or get into the GitHub / baseline repo and do pull requests, right? And that does take some catalyzing, and it's not supposed to happen on the day.
Yep.
So as we go forward, do we see, like the folks from Carnegie Mellon, do they start putting pull requests in? Do other people start pulling pull requests in? Do other people start building, forget about our repo, building their own products and services? At this point, there's 2 kinds of folks that are needed for success of this. One, people that can add to the standard. That's us. And the other is people that make their own products wildly successful because of it. And we're here for both of those groups. And that both of those groups showed up. And that's the only thing, I think there's great proof in the opportunity of just showing up. Kyle Thomas can attest to that. The Nethermind.
Kyle's done a hell of a lot more than just showing up, though, John. Let's be clear.
He's.
I'm just showing up.
Force of
here,
nature.
guys. I'm just here. I'm just here. It's fine. Thanks, John. I appreciate that.
I won't make fun of you on the plenary.
No, it's fine. You can make fun of me. That's cool. I can take it.
I know. You are Star-Lord.
I was going to say no more Star-Lord jokes.
It's such a good one, though. Yeah, and like people were like Sam Stokes and Brian Chamberlain. Sam came back from something he was doing, and people were waiting for him right in the hall at 7 this morning. Like, Sam, we have to talk to you. So,
Mark, you've definitely been contributing across multiple sessions, not just around colonoscopies, but real legitimate, baseline content.
Yeah, and what I like about Mark is he's got like a couple other folks, Ron and others. They live real stuff, not technology, not meta stuff, not middleware. They live real logistics, real day-to-day stuff. And the fact that Mark is here every day doing, around, his practical world, his meat and potatoes world, says that we must be onto something, right?
Yeah. Well, and another thing is, I think that this session kind of underscored the fact that webinars are so 2018. That where you have the opportunity where everybody can suit up and get wet. I mean, really, and actively work on everything.
Speaking of which, I don't know if I'm ever going to get through all of the content that Andreas and folks. I saw Tosh Steens from Ethereum Foundation earlier today, and they were just working it out. They were just like working it out on L2 and Zero Knowledge. Suspect there's about 10 products and all that for somebody to mine out of there, and it's all on the web. You just go right now.
And a lot of enhancement requests and new features and new ideas coming out of those sessions. I know the piece of the session that I could sit through and I could understand because it wasn't too technical for me. I was hearing ideas right and left, right? Like work step IDs and work group IDs. And it's awesome. Great energy.
See, Nick, that's why you're a born CEO, because you are technical and you feign ignorance so well. Oh, I don't know what you're smarter than me. You do all the work.
I used to write code.
Delegating when it comes to that.
Learning to feign ignorance is an important skill.
Right.
48 laws of power. Play a fool to catch a fool.
Right.
Very true. Very true.
You are my pick for CEO of something one of these days, sir.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. I'll let my CEO, my lovely wife, know. She's.
Yeah, you go over. Yeah, after this, you go over. I'm a CEO, honey.
So we've, you know, from a scheduled time perspective, we've got plenty of time, but we don't necessarily need to keep people here and let us chatter socially. Are there other key messages that, you know, attendees should take away from this, John? Right, the work is not done. We're really just getting started. We've got to distill what we've collected here and start that effort next week. We've got the hackathon coming up. You know, we heard about some great product announcements that are coming. Bill Gleim is going to go into a zero knowledge proof benchmarking presentation. He mentions he's going to do it in the SSC, the steering committee.
Yeah, not this Monday, but the next Monday after this.
Right. So, you know, that's what, 3-4 weeks out, depending on what the days fall. I'd have to look at the calendar. You know, so if people are interested in that, you know, pay attention to Slack. You know, we try to do our best, and John does a fantastic job at making sure that, you know, we cross post on channels and things like that. So, you know, this is just the beginning. Thanks for everybody that joined the Slack this week, gave us your GitHub IDs. That is the first step of hopefully many that will take us to a much brighter and much more automated and baseline future.
Right. I've got nothing else, but while we open it up, I mean, are there any last words from folks, things that people want others to know, or, you know, that are watching this last plenary? Kyle, you have anything? Dan, you guys were doing a lot of
I mean,
stuff.
I would just say thanks again to you guys that, you know, that did the bulk of the work organizing this. It has certainly, like, it has far exceeded expectations, I think, for everyone. I mean, it was pretty awesome. So awesome job. Thanks again.
Thanks.
So
Go ahead, Andreas. Or
sorry,
sorry,
I just wanted to echo what Kyle said, and wanted to add, I think because of the productivity and the energy it would be a shame if the momentum in the different tracks that has shown that there's a, you know, people who are willing to work on that and dig deeper and advance that. I think there is something in there around like a regular occurrence, not at this scale, but for tracks to continue work and continue on a regular basis as working groups, or, you know, it's like, I don't know what the right framework is, but I think that is really is important to keep the momentum going. Otherwise it's sort of like stop and go.
Yep.
And based on availability. But if there's a commitment, or you've made commitments, now you're accountable for something to deliver, then I think that will drive more engagement, and it gives people anchor points that they can go to based on what they're interested in.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
Can you imagine if we had all the footage from when the Ethereum core devs all went and lived in Zug for in that house for a month or whatever? That's what we've got, right? And partly it's a COVID world, but the upside is that we've captured every single conversation all the way through. The challenge now is going to be mining through it all, but I think that's just astounding.
You know, I would jump into some sessions, and, you know, as they would get wrapping up on the, you know, the prepared content or the prepared topic, and they started to kind of digress a bit into more organic directions, you know, the quality of those conversations was just, you know, as you mentioned in the breakout, it was the same kind of thing, but it was like in line. It was just really fantastic, right? Kevin and Sebastian and others, you know, talking about, you know, how do we get to a point where we can communicate, you know, the cost of ownership and the return on investment on these kinds of approaches relative to others, right? So that as we're having conversations with business executives, not just the IT guys, but, you know, because this is a money thing, the IT guys might not know how it impacts the bottom line. So being able to talk to CFOs and have, you know, a legitimate conversation about how much money they're wasting on processes that probably they think they work fine, and they probably do work fine, but they could be improved. You know, even just a 10% improvement would cut their cost to huge. Anyway, I'm getting on my soapbox now, but great conversations, and it was awesome.
All right. Well, any other last words?
I would just want to say is, you know, John, when you had that lunch, I guess, with you and Paul Brody and everybody over a plate of nachos, or if it was Paul, a plate of couscous and quinoa or something like that.
It was actually burgers. It was burgers.
Burgers. That's right. In Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, did you ever think that it would get to this point?
I was hopeful, but things evolve, and I think the most important thing is that when we went into that relationship with Ernst & Young, the first thing and Brian will remember, first thing we wrote down was build a great relationship with these people, and that was the highest item on our list. Build a great relationship, where we felt like we were one team, and we achieved that. And I think that more than anything is why we're here. Because if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have, we probably would have crashed and burned before you guys ever found out about it.
Yep, very true.
All right, I'll take the final word. And this is a message for our sponsor. The nature of open source is changing. And the OASIS organization is seeing us through to something really profound in how open source and open standards are being managed and run. Back in the 90s, working on things like Java, open source was something that you did with one maven, one giant head, or one company, and they would throw a bunch of resources at it, and then other people, and it was really a sales opportunity in some ways, because there were some countries and others that would not buy anything that was proprietary. Today, the standard is, and Hyperledger does this as well, openly governed open source. And that was a great step forward too. I was very proud to be part of that. I think we're taking this to a whole new level. I think that OASIS, and also with sister organizations like the EEA, are taking the level of openness. You can be anybody and have a vote in this organization. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to pay a dime. We'll take it. Yeah, they'll take your money because we need good sponsors to keep everything rolling. But it's kind of like PBS. You do that because you care and because you know that it's important. And maybe we need to do some fund drives, but that doesn't get you a vote on how the technology moves forward. That's a different kind of thing. And then with OASIS, now we're combining both open standards and open source with that. I think that's a very exciting prospect for the future of open source and open standards. And I think that what we did the last 2 days is emblematic of that this radically open session where everything we thought was on the table and transparent. And it's frankly brave, amazingly brave of everyone to do that. You're all TV personalities now. That was something, right? To come up with with novel ideas at that, in front of anybody and everybody that can get a web browser up. So kudos to all of you for that. And kudos to Jane Harned and to Jory Burson and Carol and Guy and all the folks at OASIS and the folks at EEA, huh? D and for and to, of course, Lucas and the Kiko Chat folks who made, I don't know, Jane, how you found those guys, but it really worked out well. So thank you, and thank everybody. And show up to the 5 o'clock. I think I might run out of gas at this point, so I might have to watch that game tape later. But thanks everybody for coming, and let's all become very successful together.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
And remember,
cheers, guys.
ZK Bridging, 5 o'clock.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Cheers.
See you guys.